But now, let me introduce some of my guests who are seated now. We will wait for one more to join us, and I hope he does in good time. Then we can have the discussion fully on course. But right now in the studio are Kweku Bako Jr., his editor-in-chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper. Kweku, good morning, and welcome to the show.
I prefer Abdul Malik.
Okay.
Bako.
Abdul
Not
Malik.
that it's much difference, but
that's fine.
That, yeah.
That's fine. Abdul Malik Kweku Bako. And often, you know, the challenge, you say Abdul Malik Kweku Bako and you're tempted to add a junior.
Yes, that would be wrong.
Yes, okay. I'm sure many people are beginning to notice that. So Abdul Malik Kweku Bako is editor-in-chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper. Kofi Asamoah Siang is policy advisor, the Progressive People's Party, PPP. Welcome to Newsfile.
Chief, thank you.
Kweku Kwating is MP of Boase West and is member of the Finance Committee of Parliament. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
Also, to join us later will be George Lowe, who is MP North Dai and Vice Chairman, Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee of the August House of Parliament. And as you know, we're dealing with a number of issues, but the most important of which are the disqualifications, the bombshell that the EC delivered to 12 presidential aspirants on Monday. Then there is one more, a 13th candidate or aspirant whose fate is also hanging in the balance, Odike. In fact, he was given a deadline of up to yesterday to comply or also get disqualified, so to speak. His disqualification is as a result. His situation is as a result of legal wranglings between himself and his party. So 13 candidates potentially, aspirants potentially, will not get the opportunity to be on the ballot until the courts decides otherwise, because now we know that's what's going to happen. Also, we are aware that some parliamentary aspirants are also already beginning to suffer, and for one reason or the other. We'll deal with those issues, plus the NPP's agenda change, an agenda for jobs, creating prosperity and equal opportunity for all. That is the NPP's 2016 manifesto. We'll deal with that and other matters coming up. Now, I guess we can start right away and look at the issue of the disqualification of the aspirants. And they are 12 of them, as you already know. I'd like to start with you because your party is affected. Dr. Papa Kwesi Indom is affected. We know he's already in court. He instituted a process in court yesterday seeking a judicial review by way of certiorari right. And that simply means he's seeking to quash whatever they have done, reverse it, and also by way of a prohibition, so that there will not be ballots printed without Dr. Indom. How is that going to pan out? But first of all, you say that the EC was damn wrong. But when you look at the laws that guide what the EC had to do, the EC appears to have complied with the laws and regulations.
Well, thank you very much. Then let me say good morning to our viewers. I don't know which part of the regulations that you're looking at to say that they've complied, because right in front of me is the CN.
I'm not saying, I'm reporting to you what the EC has said.
Yes, so, well, I don't know which part of the law EC is looking at. It's an interesting thing, and there's some communication that has happened. And people are saying that there are some mistakes that the presidential candidate has to be fully responsible for and so on. We know that and we accept that responsibility. But if you look at what can invalidate your form, it is not clerical errors. It is not administrative errors. There are things that go to the very nature of your application itself. So they are listed there. And if you permit me, section 9, Subsection 2, the returning officer shall inform a candidate that the candidate's nomination is invalid where the particulars of the candidate or the person subscribing to the nomination paper are not as required by law, and B, the nomination paper is not subscribed to as required by law. So in our case, somebody was supposed to subscribe to our nomination form from the central region, and that person's particulars does not agree with the particulars that he should come from central region. So if we proceed on that, the law is saying that when you find this, it is not in accordance with the law. So the EC shall give the candidate an opportunity to make amendment or any alteration necessary within the stipulated nomination period. And when the candidate refuses, then the nomination document is signed on and given to the commission to make a decision. I think in our case, at this point, we still think that the commission is seized with the power to revise its decision. Because when they say the commission will take a decision, the decision is not written in law, which means that
they will take a decision within 7 days.
Yes, within 7 days.
Right.
Yes. So what we are saying is that that decision rests with the commission, and it can either be acceptance or rejection. But if you want to reject...
Within 7 days begins from the very day that the EC decides it's concluded the nominations.
But when did the nomination conclude?
On the 30th.
On the 30th. So when were the candidates supposed to be notified? Before the 30th. So if the candidates were not notified, you can proceed to say that he's waived his rights of alteration and amendment.
Notified within the nomination period.
Yes, that's the point I'm making.
The conclusion was on the 30th, isn't it?
Yes, so we are saying that we submitted our nomination forms 9:41 a.m. 30th September. Okay, so if we had, so it was a responsibility now on the Electoral Commission to make sure that our nomination papers were valid in accordance with 9.2. If you found anything that will not support that nomination form is completed in accordance with the provisions, you call us, you tell us.
So you mean you
but
had
we were
the expectation of the EC to go through your nomination documents on that day, and invite you on that day to make the corrections.
And we're already prepared that if we needed to have problems with any of the 432 signatories, we will provide the people there. And we had that backup plan ready. And we proactively followed up, made phone calls to make sure that that was done, and we were not informed. And really, if you look at one, in the absence of any of such notification and that exercised by the EC, the candidate stands nominated, unless there is proof that that candidate has withdrawn or is dead or is disqualified. That disqualification is something that we don't want to go into because it's something that is vested.
You're saying that you were expecting to be called to make corrections.
Yes.
On what you find to be, was it clerical or administrative error?
Something that can affect the validity of your nomination.
Something that can affect the validity.
And that something is defined here.
Okay.
That if one or more of your subscribers do not meet the regulations or the requirement, then you should be notified. Or the form itself is not completed in the manner as stated in the regulation. So I would like to submit to you that if we take a blank, or if we took a blank nomination form to the EC, it was not done in accordance with this. So as soon as the EC sees it, it must return it to you immediately.
Okay.
And say that
those who got disqualified, Dr. Hassan Ayariga of the All People's Party, APC. Number 2, Dr. Edward Nasigiri Mahama of the PNC. Number 3 is Dr. Nana Ajuman Boateng, United Front Party. Each, there are specific reasons assigned, and the EC appears to have been very meticulous and detailed in communicating those. We will share them with you. Number 4, Kofi Apalo is Independent People's Party. Also, Kwabena Eje of the Reform Patriotic Democrat, Dr. Papa Kwesi Indung of the PPP, Dr. Henry Herbert Latte, Great Consolidated Popular Party, GCPP. Also is number 8, Richard Nixon Tete, United Development Systems Party. Number 9, Mrs. Nana Konedu Ajuman Rawlings, National Democratic Party. Number 10, Thomas Nyakon Ward Brew of the Democratic People's Party. Number 11 is Alfred Kwame Siedu Walker, independent candidate. And number 12, Ekia Donko, Ghana Freedom Party. Akwesi Adai Odike is 13th. He's on the sponsored by the United Progressive Party. But as the EC says, his candidature was put on hold. His nomination was put on hold because of internal party wranglings. In respect of Dr. Papakwesi Indum, you say you were expecting that you'd be called to make these corrections. Now, this is what the commission says. The commission is unable to accept Dr. Indum's nomination because the number of subscribers to his forms did not meet the requirements of Regulation 72B of CI 94. The details are as follows. 1. One subscriber, Richard Asida on the voters register with voter ID, blah, 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 on pages 21 and 30, that he endorsed the forms in 2 different districts. He endorsed the forms in 2 different districts. So you find him endorsing in page 21 and you find him endorsing in page 39. The subscriber was found to be on the voters register in one district, thereby disqualifying his second subscription and reducing the total number of subscribers to below the minimum required by the law. The same subscriber endorsed the form with different signatures. I want you to note that. Different signatures in both portions of the nomination form. This raises questions as to the legitimacy of one or both of the signatures. Then they say they'll refer the matter of the possible forgery of signatures. Note that, possible forgery of signatures to the Attorney General and to the police, making false declaration, deceiving a public officer, corruption, intimidation, and personation in respect of elections. What has been identified by the EC borders on criminality.
Yes.
You expect to be called to rectify a matter of crime?
Yeah, but I think you agree that that matter of crime belongs to a different kettle of fish. It belongs to a different realm. What we are accused of not
say welcome to Judge Lowe. Welcome.
Is that if the statement there says that a B, but to be signed by not less than 2 persons who are registered voters in the area of authority of each district assembly. So in this particular district assembly, the person who signed does not meet the district particulars. So that is the anomaly with our form, and that goes back to 79. That subscription does not agree with law. So it is not about crime or error or double signatures or anything. What must happen is that you must come from the district. If you are not from there, then you jump quickly to 9.2. In this case, it will be 9.2b, that the nomination paper is not subscribed to as required by law. Okay. So when you see this, that Dr. Indum's nomination form needed valid 432 signatures, but he is short by 1. It means that his nomination form is invalid at that point, and you must call him to rectify it. If you don't do this, and you have 9 a.m. of the morning of the 30th September till 5 p.m., even when we in the PPP were staying put at the commission and calling and following up and said you have nothing wrong with our form and so on and so forth, you don't wait 10 days after, hold a press conference without even official communication and announce to the whole world that this is what was wrong with our nomination form, and not following your own rules and procedures. So, and there's one thing that I think their lawyers around the table. Look, when the EC or the regulation talked about disqualification, you read carefully, you realize that the proofs that must be before the commission to otherwise not accept must come from outside the commission. So invalidity or invalid nomination form is not one of the grounds for disqualification. So if you are supposed to be a citizen of Ghana and later on the EC finds out that you have declared that you are a citizen, you don't hold any allegiance, and somebody brings evidence from outside that this is not correct, then the EC can go to the Constitution and use that to disqualify you.
An example to what you say that readily comes to mind is Adamu Dramani Sakande.
Yes.
He declared he had dual citizenship.
He's renounced one.
And he came and made a declaration claiming something else, and the court found him guilty of perjury, among other things. And so he lost his constituency, he lost his seat.
Yes, and for us, the EC is on record to have performed this function that, in our case, she didn't perform. So it is not that they didn't know, it is that a case of bias against the Progressive People's Party.
Okay.
Because
we'll get to the other aspects which we have heard you canvass before on the questions of bias, and that just a case of which hand. Right, so Kweku, and I'm referring to Kweku Kwate.
Okay.
Right. Right. Those who were qualified, whose nominations were accepted, your candidate, Nanado Dankwa Akufo-Addo, John Dramani Mahama, Ivor Greenstreet of the Convention People's Party, and Jacob Osei-Yeboah of the who's the independent candidate. Kofi makes a point about they having submitted their forms on the 30th, because they were giving the 29th and the 30th as a date on which to submit your nomination forms. They submitted on the 30th. They had expected to be called to rectify what had been identified. One person subscribing twice and seen in one district, and in the two areas where he subscribes, two different signatures are ascribed to him. Do you really think that the EC erred in this regard?
Well, thank you, Samson, and good morning to viewers, especially those in my constituency. I will be there tomorrow. We have a campaign launch for one of our electoral areas at Black Park, and we are inviting the public to be there to listen to the things we we have for them. On this matter of the disqualification, I hear it is not disqualification. Whatever it is, a rejection of nomination forms.
The effect is that you are disqualified. That's
consistent with the statement my party issued. My heart goes out to the affected parties, and that is understandable. Let's remember that there's a sense in which all these affected parties are natural allies of the NPP, in the sense that we all seem to be united in our belief that the way this country is being governed is not right, and that if things go on like this, this country is heading for trouble, and therefore we think there must be a change of government.
They are natural allies of the NPP in that regard.
In that regard,
I'm asking that because I've heard the NPP complain before that some of these parties did not meet the qualification to be parties and were allowed, and they were coming to IPAC. And at IPAC, you do vote. NPP may have a very good issue that it will raise, but it will lose the votes because it's suspected that many of these were being sponsored by the NDC, and they will vote along the NDC.
Sure. Well, I'm making a general statement that parties in opposition are natural allies in some sense. What you are referring to is a situation where the party in government sponsors parties to muddy the waters. I mean,
the opposition is also suspected of sponsoring other parties to help.
We are not sponsoring any party at all. We do not even have the means to do so. And so that is an aberration. But the broader point I'm making is that parties outside government that are saying collectively that things are not going right and there ought to be change are in that sense natural allies.
Okay.
And so we regret what has happened. We're happy the matter is in court. We hope that these matters will be determined quickly so that the process can proceed. I also have to mention that the reason we regret what has happened is, in the event, let's take the event that there was a second round, and it was, say, the NPP, the NDC, and the PPP that were the two contesting parties. In that belief, the MPP would support the PPP. We would support the PPP because of our belief that things are not going right and that they have to change. The same would apply to the NDP, the same will apply to the CPP. So it is a reason we find what has happened unfortunate. I do not want to go into the merits of the case the PPP is making, especially so when it is in court, except to make the broad point that we wish them well, and that the way this matter will be determined would help all of us going forward. So in future, either the parties would have to be more careful, or the EC in acting like this would be guided by the things that the court would pronounce on.
To the specific question I asked,
do I think the EC erred?
They were required to submit their forms on the 29th and the 20th or the 30th. They say they submitted on the 30th.
9 o'clock.
They were never called. They made efforts to find out if there were issues that ought to be rectified. They didn't get any audience.
Well, if you look at the text of CI 94, it is not hard to see that it was expected that under those circumstances, the attention ought to have been drawn to what the EC perceived to be irregularities. But we have had suggestions that...
Are these mere irregularities or infractions?
Well, infractions are irregularities, I assume.
Okay.
I mean, I have heard suggestions that they presented it the last minute. These are matters of fact. I'm not in a position to confirm or deny that. He says they did it at 9 o'clock. And so if there was opportunity for the EC to draw the attention to these, then I am waiting to see how the court will respond to that, because the CI, the EC itself brought to Parliament said that in the event of those irregularities, you should draw the attention of the candidates for corrections to be done. And if, as he says, you remember the nomination period was very tight. This time it was tight to vindicate the view that if we were holding this election on November 7th, it would have been a very, very difficult exercise for everybody. And because it was tight, many of us had to file our nominations on the Thursday or Friday. I'm not aware of any candidate that filed their nomination even on Wednesday, because there were issues of even appointment of returning officers, and so
they were asked to go back and come on the Thursday.
Sure. So we're all boxed into those 2 days. So I'm sure the court, in determining these matters, would pay attention to all these details and to see whether if you give me 2 days and I bring it 9 o'clock the second day as the PPP is claiming, whether the EC ought to have been able within that period to draw the attention to whatever they consider to be infraction. So
this is what the EC says. The EC says in its statement in page 5 that prior to the close of nominations on the 29th and 30th of September, candidates whose nomination forms had obvious errors, and who submitted early enough, were called by the officers of the commission and given the opportunity to correct the obvious errors or omissions on their nomination forms. The law permits such corrections only within the nomination period. Hence, our earlier call on candidates to submit as early as possible.
What I think, Samson, that these matters, the issues in the end would come to whether or not within the time available these corrections could have been done. That is how it seems to me. Okay. I'm sure these are the matters the court to be averting its mind to. And I'm saying that if you went to the EC on Wednesday and you were told that you are unable because the EC that said they could run this election comfortably on November 7th was now pressed for time in appointing returning officers, and therefore they said come Thursday. So you had 2 days within which to do this. Now I'm not too sure what is meant by early enough. So within those 2 days, It is for the court to see whether the time the affected person submitted their nominations allowed for the EC to do its job well. And when you were reading this, I noted that they kept talking about obvious errors. Now, I'm not too sure if that is the language of CI 94. If CI 94 said, for obvious errors, we will draw your attention, but for deep errors, perhaps, we are unable to do that. It will be for the EC to explain to the court. But I, as I said, I wish the honest opposition parties well. I guess hope that in the end, Ghanaians will have the opportunity to decide who the president ought to be, and that we're not going to have people excluded.
George, yes. Now, George, I don't know what you may construe to be these obvious errors and omissions, and whether or not those include the matters the EC has concluded border on criminality, and for which it is forwarding to the police and the Attorney General to prosecute the persons who were caught in these matters. Regulation 9(2) says the returning officer shall inform a candidate that the candidate's nomination is invalid, where A, the particulars of the candidate or the person subscribing to the nomination paper are not as required by law. Are not as required by law. Will that be error? Will that be omission? Are not as required by law. And B, the nomination paper is not subscribed to as required by law. Will this be error or omission, clerical or administrative? And says when on the basis of this it declares that the nomination is invalid, then it shall give the candidate an opportunity to make amendments or alterations necessary within the stipulated nomination period.
Samson, good morning. Good morning to colleagues around the table, and good morning to cherished listeners, and to all my friends in the NDC who are launching their campaign across the country, particularly in Greater Accra today. I wish them well. I hope to join a couple of them if I can. Samson, I mean, I know that you are playing the devil's advocate by virtue of the fact that you are host of this program. I will speak purely as a lawyer on this particular matter. I mean, that is my legal opinion, and that is what it will be. Samson, you see, I believe that in this country, sometimes we refuse to manage our processes well. And for me, the refusal to manage a process well has serious implications, including security implications. And therefore, my first position is that we should be mindful of how we act when we are in a certain capacity. Dr. Aferijan has held a position for so many years, and we never came to these levels. I believe not because he didn't have challenges, but possibly it's because of the way he managed them.
We disqualified Kunedu Ajman.
Yes, because at the time, she hadn't produced all her documents at 5 o'clock, as at the time they were closing. And remember that she was even asked to go and correct and come back, and she couldn't. So that's a different matter. I know people raise that issue, but it was a totally different matter. Now, let's come back to what you are discussing. You see, first and foremost, when you read your constitution as a lawyer, what does it tell you? Is it the intendment of anybody or the framers of that constitution that people who want to stand for public office can be asked or can be denied just on certain grounds? And I think that in crafting the CI 94, it was from that constitutional intendment that this 9 was put in there. And as you circled the words, I'm sure they spoke to you yourself. First and foremost, when does one stand nominated? When it's a nominated candidate, at what process? It's in the law. It says that when you have finished everything and have paid.
Yes.
As at the 30th, had people paid their filing fee?
No.
So did they stand nominated? That is question 1. Question 2. I have read, I stand to be corrected, that the CPP were not ready with their draft at a certain time. They went there and they were given some time to go and do it. Did they complete it outside the nomination period or not? Odike is in court, so he's been given some time. I understand he's been given some time to go and put it out in court.
That time, I think, was up to yesterday.
Yes, and I'm saying that it was yesterday the close of nomination.
No.
So I am saying that when would we say? That's the first thing that if I were a judge, I want to determine where we will say or when we will say was a close of nominations. It's a legal matter that I'll leave to the justices to look at.
Can't you treat Odike's case separated different?
No.
Because it is not the case that he has submitted a form that had some clerical or whatever errors, but it was because there was a matter pending.
I am saying that we are dealing with CI 94. CI 94 is emphatic. So if others have been told that your time is up because there is no further chance of or a further window for you to come through, then all that window is shut. That is my interpretation.
Okay.
And so I believe that that's why I said I leave the final decision to the justice of this court.
All right.
2, you as a lawyer, at what point can you say somebody's signature is a forgery? Should it be that speculative where me and you, even when you and I, or when the police have arrested people on grounds of forgery, don't we bring experts to come and look at it? Don't we go for forensic experts and things? Signature
Are you
experts.
saying?
Wait,
are you saying that
Samson,
if I see that George Lowe has signed in paragraph 21, and then George Lowe the same thing? I'm talking about the PPP situation.
Yes.
Paragraph 21 and then 30 what? 39. 21 and the signature is different, and then in 39 it's also different. I should not have the opportunity to say prima facie on the face of it there ought to be something wrong with this.
So now the PPP is disqualified, right? So the Attorney General has notified me that the thing has been brought. They'll do a prosecution. So they do a prosecution and the guy is exonerated. So what happens to the PPP?
It's restored.
When they finish printing ballot papers. No, I'm saying that, you see, it's the management of our systems that I'm talking about. I'm not attacking anybody. I'm saying the management of the process. You and I know, and we are talking like purely as lawyers, that until a court of competent jurisdiction says that you forged the signature, it is not conclusive. It is not conclusive, and I believe that you know exactly what I'm talking about.
No,
so I am saying that
what I'm doing, I'm actually asking questions.
Yes, I'm saying that.
Now tell me this. What you're saying is that the EC, having seen that, should have overlooked it.
Listen, I am only raising questions. I'm saying that the judges are the final arbiters.
I'm raising a question to you on the basis of what you just said.
For me,
you are saying it is only a court of law.
Yes.
That can conclusively say something is forged.
Good.
The EC sees one person signing in two different portions and the signature is different. Then the EC says there's a problem. You say what? The EC should have said, overlooked it, or should have said, okay, yours is accepted subject to a prosecution and determination by a court.
To the extent that there is a conflict in what the two parties are saying. The PPP says we were not given the opportunity. The EC says we gave all parties opportunity. I'm saying that to the extent that we haven't come to the conclusion that the PPP were told that this is what has happened. They said, well, that is how it stays. We are not going to do anything about it.
Okay.
That's what 2 says.
Okay.
Then we can say, then the EC will be right to say that, well, we have given you the opportunity. We believe that this. But to the extent that they haven't been asked to come and explain, according to the tenor of this law, then I think that, for me, there's a problem that needs to be determined.
Well, you are refusing to say the EC erred, but you have said so.
I am saying that
you say the EC was damn wrong.
Listen.
You are saying the EC constituted itself into a court.
I am saying that
you shouldn't have done that.
As a lawyer, trained as a lawyer, if the PPP came to instruct me, these are some of the questions I will raise with them. These are the reasons why I may want to go to court. Okay?
Okay,
Because,
hold on before you are accused of touting and advertising.
No.
And then you are hauled before the disciplinary committee of the General Legal Council.
but no, you see, you see, this is a very important issue,
Okay.
and I want us to go to, because we are dealing with the law.
Yes.
So I've asked several questions. Now, as I sit here, I know that I'm in a case before a court in the Volta region dealing with issues of double registration and other things in the register.
All right.
So should I go and fight and get somebody's name struck out who happened to have signed for a party that has been accepted to contest? Are we going to go back and disqualify that person? So that's what I'm talking about, management of the process.
That's what time was the person's name struck out?
Thank you. So there are several issues that I can, because when in that same process that I was doing the voter reading, half the time all the judge says is, oh, double registration, why you do double register? The person said, oh, I thought it was this. Then wait.
Let me
then
flip
the judgment, the ruling is that, okay, we strike out one, so the other one stays. So you see, there are issues. All I'm just saying is that, for me, and then again, Kweku talks about the tightness of the nomination period and its attendant challenges that come.
Right.
Today they are saying that, oh, we gave people 2 days and it was enough. If 50 parties had registered, because we never had 17 and 20 something in Ghana, right?
But should they have submitted on the 29th and 30th?
I am saying that if 100 people had submitted,
why didn't you? Why were you not minded to submit earlier than that?
But no,
they did not allow it.
Let's. I'm saying that
they did not allow it.
Yes.
Oh, but you should also be reading the law. The law says that you are to submit on or before the dates appointed.
Something agreed. You see, and then the Electoral Commission chairperson is the returning officer for presidential election, and she tells you she's not available. I'm available on 29th and 30th. How can you go and submit? Submit to who? Director of elections?
You see something. Let's look at this. That's what I'm saying.
If I can just chip in.
Okay, come in.
The CI says is a returning officer that would accept the nomination.
Yes.
Now, the Electoral Commission had advertised for returning officers, and their engagement had not happened as of the Wednesday. It seems to me that it was the reason, at least for those of us who were parliamentary candidates, were advised that you can only go on the Thursday and Friday. So the EC itself seemed to have afforded us 2 days. Now, within that 2 days...
But there's a press statement to that effect.
Okay, now, George, deal with this matter of law. Regulation 7.1.1c or 1D, Regulation 7.1d says that it should be delivered to the commission on or before the day appointed as nomination day in relation to the election. So on or before is that you pick the forms on the 13th. So anytime from the 13th up to the 30th, they could have presented it.
They could have, listen, they could have presented it.
That's what the law says.
Yes, that's what the law says. But this is the case, the same law says that it's only one person who is qualified to receive.
Okay.
And so far as they are concerned, they are saying that that one person says I'm not available.
Okay.
All these things are a matter of evidence.
Okay.
If they are able to prove that we actually even wanted to do it clearly so we could correct and the EC was not available, I mean, there are things that the court will have to look at in determining whether they want to pass
now
or not. So in fact, all I'm just saying is that we must learn very serious lessons from this.
Right.
And begin to realize that when it comes to implementation of these things, we should do it timeously. We should do them with a lot more care. But I'm saying that also the EC in setting them up were duty bound to ensure that people were given all the opportunity, as in 9.2, to make sure that they correct and listen carefully. Once it is saying that if they did not do it in accordance to law, it is like ousting the law from getting you until such a time that all the opportunity have been given you and you yourself have said, look, I'm satisfied with what I've presented, go ahead and deal with it. Then you can even say that it's only at that point that maybe even your statutory declaration kicks in. There are people who have started talking about the fact that they have 2 signatures.
Okay, no, hold on.
And things like that.
Hold on
Is it a crime?
Some of the things the EC had to say at the announcement, we'll play some of it for you to hear at first hand if you missed it in the course of the week or on Monday when the same was done. But what we are trying to do on this platform is to do things in a certain methodical way so that you can deeply appreciate the processes, and I hope we're helping you in that direction. Kuku, I have seen how you have gotten ready and open pages to read and all, but before you dealt with that, can you try and help us this way? George seems to say that Nana Konadu and her lawyers are right and the EC is wrong.
Oh, really?
Yes, because
I don't remember mentioning.
No, you have said it.
No, all I've just done is to explain the position of the law.
Don't worry.
But you see,
George is saying that.
I haven't said that too. Because
George is saying that.
People put it there and people start calling.
Okay,
when
let me rephrase.
Please.
I understand George to say that the EC more or less has constituted itself into a judicial authority, a law court, and has made conclusive determination on questions of forgery. And on the basis of that, it has disallowed Dr. Papakwesi Indu. Nana Konadu Agyeman-Rawlings argues that you say one subscriber on page 89 of her nomination forms is not a validly registered voter and illegally registered twice. Therefore, his name is on the exclusion list of multiple voters. Nana Konadu Agyeman-Rawlings says, how did you come to this determination without having first taking this person through the process of law and taking his name out, or gotten a court to have convicted him in the first place? This Salifu Abdullahi convicted him, after which he would have been said not to be able to vote or to register for 5 years. So he seems to support Nana Konadu that she's on the right path.
Well, who am I to contest the opinion of a lawyer? A trained one.
Kweku.
I am proceeding from the street corner. But because in the name of democracy, I'm sure I'm permitted to also make a point. But a quick one. The who receives the nomination, it became an issue a few moments ago.
Yes, the EC.
It's the EC.
Yeah, the returning officer for presidential elections.
Is that stated categorically?
Yeah.
Where is it? In which CI?
I think 19.
Which CI?
CI 94. Let's check 19.
Where is it stated? What I see here is this.
19.
To be the nomination form for each candidate in an election for president shall be delivered to the commission on or before the day appointed as nomination day in relation to the election. Then I see 5. If you go to 5, that is 7.1. We are talking here of regulation 7.1. If you go to regulation 7.5, it says the chairman of the commission shall be the returning officer for the purpose of the election of the president. Yeah, it doesn't say categorically.
It does.
No.
Let
me finish. Let me finish. I'm talking here of the presidents. We are talking here of presidential candidates.
That is so.
And I'm saying that I don't see any categorical indication that it is the chairperson of the EC who must necessarily receive the nomination form. I see here as the chairperson or chairman, as they put it, being the returning officer for the purpose of the election of president. Yes, that's been the law.
And what you are reading, what you are reading is titled "Nomination of Candidates in Presidential Elections."
Yes.
Nomination.
Yes.
So Judge Lowe will tell you that when you read the entire regulation, this is to tell you that what you are saying is missing is actually present.
No, you don't get it. You are saying, we created an impression here a few moments ago that it is the chairperson, in this case here stated chairman, who must necessarily receive the nomination form. I am saying that when I read this with my street corner legal opinion, the commission as a commission is in a position to receive it because you must deliver it to the commission.
So why did the chairperson receive all
but
of them?
But the chairperson received it together with the other members. It's stated in their report.
Yeah, but we could look
the chairperson,
look at 9.7.
The chairperson.
Look at 9.7. It says the returning officer shall state in the declaration the time at which each nomination was received.
Yeah,
and
but
the
it
time
doesn't
at which
say
the nomination was accepted. You see,
you're not
no, please. You see, wait,
my brother, listen.
Wait.
It does not state that so that assuming it's not. Let me finish.
She is coming with a declaration.
This is my time.
No, well, no, I'm not. No, Kweku, we are all.
I haven't even proceeded.
I'm
but
saying
the point
that
I'm making
also
is that
pointing
if
to that, you see, it is said that she will in a declaration, a statutory declaration, say that, well, this is the time all these
people came.
It does not say
she has
here.
To be there to be able to tell you.
It
He is saying it does not say that
because that
she must necessarily be the one to receive it.
Assuming she didn't receive it,
Yes.
would it be a violation of any of these regulations? Assuming she was not available, but the commission was available to receive, would it be a violation of any regulation? No.
Yeah, but Kweku,
and that is the point
you are
I'm
also
making.
not being fair to the others. No, you are not because they are saying that they actually.
But I'm not even arguing against anybody.
No,
yet.
I'm just giving you an example. They are even saying that she says I'm not available to take it.
Well,
if she had instructed other members of the commission,
this is what somebody is saying.
Yes,
here.
that's what I'm saying.
I'm not prepared.
Hold on 1 minute. Hold on 1 minute. Are you saying that by your training as a lawyer, in construing a legislation, this ought necessarily be the case? That what Kweku is saying is absent, is actually present.
Yeah, I am saying
and that it is the EC chair who must of necessity receive it.
The returning officer.
Can we just say a yes or no and then we'll proceed?
I'm saying that in all, if you read all, the returning officer is the one that comes out officially to pronounce on what has been received, the time it has been received and all those.
That's not what Kweku is talking about.
And I'm saying that for me, by extension, she must be there to know the time that the things was received.
Someone will receive it and note it for her.
Well, but you see, when you are putting it in a if you are putting it in a clarity,
which paragraph of the press statement?
Number one
statement.
It said the commission will be accepting nominations from presidential and parliamentary candidates on 29th and 30th September 2016.
What did he just say? He says the commission.
The commission.
Yes.
You just said the commission. Yes. You are vindicating the
now we will continue.
Sorry. But you are vindicating the point.
No, the point I'm making
all of you shut up. Let's hear Kweku. Now, thank you. Kweku, let's hear.
I wasn't talking of the dates. I wasn't talking of time frames.
Kweku, proceed.
I disagree with you, Kweku, on the law.
Oh, you are the lawyer.
Yeah, I disagree with you.
You are entitled to disagree and you have done so. Kweku, go ahead.
So go on.
Thank you. I understand. See, as we speak now, the EC has referred the cases to the police and the AG.
Yes.
I'm told the PPP candidate has filed a certain rate in court. From what I hear in the grapevine, Mrs. Rawlins's rate will reach the courts on Monday. So, in actual fact, the whole dynamic is changing. Yes, why not? We can debate in the the court of public opinion. Nothing stops us if we do it very well, and we've established that tradition here. So I'm okay with it. But obviously, the resolution lies in the court of law,
right?
And it's good for this country. We've had a lot of litigations in recent times relative to the EC's conduct of operations, and we had different stands on different occasions. I think at the end of the day, it improved on our legal system, the judicial jurisprudence, and all the rest. But you see, for instance, the question now has arisen and is critical. Who can disqualify a voter and at what point in time? I am asking myself, I'm just an uneducated, I'm making an uneducated intervention. If you look at the statute, it says a person qualifies to be registered as a voter if he's a citizen of Ghana of 18 years of age or above. B, he's of sound mind.
That's the constitution.
Yes, and it's also captured in...
repeated.
Yes, repeated. He's resident in a police division. He is not otherwise disqualified to be a registered as a voter by any law for the time being in force. And 2, no person shall be entitled to have his name included at any one time in the register of more than one constituency,
right,
or in more than one divisional register in a constituency. Now, I hear a legal opinion suggesting that it is only when a court has pronounced somebody as disqualified or has actually prosecuted a person and sentenced the person for a violation of this thing that the person can be deemed disqualified, and that the EC has no such mandate. It's a very interesting argument, and I've been told to go and look for some legal some judgments. I've been told to look for the Palu case. I've been told to look for Ten Ade.
Yeah.
I've been told to look for
Ahuma
Okanse and all the rest.
And even the Abu Ramadan case.
Okay, interesting. But you see, I was also asking myself.
And the election petition.
Yes, I'm asking myself this question. Take for instance let's go by this before I go to the Ndum thing. If in the course of EC screening its voter, the register, evidence comes to the EC that a non-Ghanaian has registered, is on the register, does the EC have the mandate not to include that person in the register, or the EC must, before it can eliminate that person, proceed to court for court to determine that?
What's your answer to that?
I think there are certain circumstances that the EC, if there's evidence before it that you've done double registration, you are a non-Ghanaian, you don't qualify, can exclude you from the register.
Are you familiar with any of the provisions in CI 91 to that effect?
I'm not sure about that. But these things I quoted are in the CI 94. Are they not? They are.
In respect of excluding a voter and stuff, the process is guided by CI 91.
That's a registration.
I have the CI 91 here.
Right.
But the point I'm making, for instance, look, so when the EC was going through the nomination form of PPP,
right,
we are using that because it's here, the others are not here, but I want him to tackle this. See, and he saw these two things. This Richard Asiga man, Asida rather, whose ID number is the same in the Trufo Heman area as it is in the Jasikan area. Am I right?
Right.
The ID number is the same.
Yes.
ID number is the same, yeah.
And there's something they call PS. I don't know what that means. The D, this one.
That's the name of the polling station. Polling station
And
code.
in the Trufo Minima page is B.
Is B.
Here is D.
Yeah, because
but the numbers are the same.
The numbers are the same, yeah.
The picture of the man is the same.
Right.
We are suggesting that the EC could not immediately take a decision on this discrepancy, but it has to wait for a court of law to determine that. I'm wondering, the man may be a valid voter. Yes, it's true. For all you know, in the Trima area, I suspect so. I may be wrong.
No, it's not there.
Well, I don't know. I'm just saying I'm not sure. But
Then a valid voter in one of the places.
It must be in one of the places. I suspect is the.
But he said that he's valid in voter.
Yes.
In voter, okay,
Yes.
that's information already available.
Okay, so hold on. Continue.
Yes, so if so, he cannot be valid voter in Trima. And relative to the criteria that has been stipulated for the papers, the nomination forms to be credible and acceptable,
Right.
this is a violation.
Yes.
And fantastic. It's a violation.
Yes.
And if it's a violation, we are suggesting.
Yes.
I had asked the question you ask again.
Yeah.
That they were expecting the EC to look on and say I can't do anything until a court comes in. But Kweku,
I'll be surprised.
The CI 91 may be instructive, and the EC officers are listening and watching us. They may make this intervention.
I'm looking for my copy.
Reading from regulations 22 going. Regarding compilation of the provisional register, which is supposed to be done 3 months after the end of the registration. And then there's supposed to be exhibition of the provisional register. Now, when the provisional register is exhibited, the law requires that there can be objections to who is validly on and who is not on.
Yeah.
And when those objections come, there's a process that has to be gone through involving a district magistrate who is supposed to be acting as the district registration review officer.
Yes.
As a district magistrate. In a district where you don't have a magistrate, then there's a high court judge who is supposed to appoint a lawyer of not less than 3 years to do that job. Now, when they are doing it, you see the notices, there's various notices. They're supposed to issue to the affected party. The person you say may have registered twice. to come.
Yeah, but in this case, this gentleman
And they'll go
apparently
through a process.
it's not a double registration.
Okay.
In his case,
Yes,
this case.
but these issues have come up, for example.
Yes, but I'm
so
saying
if Nana Konadu says that, for example, this is the situation you are talking about, and then you ought to have gone through this process. The person ought to have been afforded the opportunity to know that my name has been deleted because they don't even know.
Nana Kunedu's case you are talking about. We are not talking about Endum now. Because they don't...
I want us to mix a number of them. Yeah.
What you have indicated,
Yeah.
the Endum one is not captured. Because his is not double registration.
Right.
His is like double endorsement, if you like. Am I right?
Right,
In
that's
terms
it.
of precision.
Yeah, that's it.
Yes,
Yeah.
so it wouldn't apply.
Right.
But it's still a legitimate inquiry you are making if we revert to the Kunedu category. Because I think Kunedu's category, that was the point being made by the EC.
Right.
I may have to address myself properly to it.
Yeah, that's it. They say that one
multiple-
subscriber on page 89 of her nomination form is not a validly registered voter and illegally registered twice.
Yes,
And
multiple
is so
registration.
is on the exclusion list of multiple voters.
Yes, so that job has been done already. That list is not part exactly of the row itself, the one that will be used for an election. Am I not right? The exclusion thing
You're right.
is no longer part of that row that is going to be used.
Help me understand, is the exclusion list a product of the district registration review process, so that you are brought forward and told that we found you here and there and therefore you've been excluded?
You see, the process is in various categories. Like Kweku was spot on when he said the EC at times, when your name pops out twice, can clean the register. The CO2 can clean the register. The EC also can go through the process that when somebody has challenged, because sometimes they don't even know. And this challenge comes as a result of even those who are dead. You have to bring some.
The challenge can be raised by any voter,
Yes.
and it can also be raised by an EC officer.
So
That's
all
right.
those things can go through. So I think that for me, I am not even worried about all these things. My worry is that the law is saying that at any point in time that you identify that, when the forms have been brought, call the people and give them opportunity to correct it.
To correct even fraud.
Okay.
Yes.
Kweku didn't comment.
So even if it's fraud,
No, you see, Kweku,
I should
that
call
no,
you to
Kweku,
come
Kweku,
and cure.
because the fraud
How
may
you
not
know
have
it's
been
fraud?
perpetrated
No,
by the
no.
presidential
Okay.
candidate.
Oh, no, it doesn't matter.
There is
So
some-
it does.
There is
No,
some
it
impression
does.
here
It
that
does.
Okay, hold on. Let's hear Kofi.
It does. Yes, according to
Sorry,
law.
let's hear Kofi. Sorry.
There's some impression here that the disqualification by the EC of Dr. Indom was occasioned by fraud. That is not the understanding. Otherwise, the other signatory in voter will not stand, because it will appear that it's the same one person who is
Signing
in both sides.
twice. So all should be invalid.
If the disqualification was occasioned by fraud, then we'll have two signatories out.
Okay.
So
No.
the point is that the forgery is not part of the consideration that the EC used to come to that conclusion.
Right.
The EC said that because you are not supposed to be in Heman and your name is found in Heman, then you don't qualify to subscribe to Dr. Indum's nomination in Heman. And that is what we now kick in 9-2. So the
No,
disqualification
wait,
was
wait.
not based on the forgery or the alleged fraud.
No, well, that's
Yes.
I thought I heard the EC.
No, that's not. The
I
EC
thought I
referred
heard
the
the
matter
EC.
Okay,
differently.
let's
to a
do
different-
this. Let's do this. We're taking a break, and when we return, we would hear what the EC had to say directly, and we'll wrap
Okay,
up
I
on
think
this discussion.
that's better.
We'll wrap up on this discussion and ask the question about the potential of the December 7 being in limbo. Is that something that is contemplated? December 7 voting being in limbo. But more also, can we ask the questions? The EC on the 23rd of September launched and published a guide to candidates and their agents. And in this guide, it tells the candidate exactly what to do. Don't let two people endorse for the same person. It's wrong. Don't let two people endorse for one person and go and endorse for another person. And all the things that ought to be done. On the 26th of September, that's about 3 days after, it also released a prayer statement in which it reminded the candidates or the aspirants to take these matters very seriously and ensure that they comply So how come we have some of the errors that we find? We'll be right back.
So following the receipt of forms last week and payment of fees, we're now in a position to announce to the public the candidates who met the criteria and the candidates who did not. The Commission has endorsed their forms accordingly following our decision this morning, and we have also sent letters to all the candidates affected. Dr. Hassan Ayariga of the All People's Congress. The Commission is unable to accept Dr. Ayariga's nomination for the following reasons. The candidate did not provide evidence on his declaration as to his hometown or his residence in the constituency for the period specified by law. Dr. Edward Nasigri Mahama of the PNC. The Commission is unable to accept Dr. Mahama's nomination for the following reasons. Many subscribers to Dr. Mahama's forms did not properly sign the forms. Thumbprints, signatures, or marks were omitted altogether. Dr. Ejenim Boateng of the United Front Party. The Commission is unable to accept Dr. Boateng's nomination because a number of his subscribers do not meet the minimum required by under Regulation 72B of CI 94.
Now, I'm going to tell you about the people who are paying for this show, but I need to get this quickly out there. Kweku, specific to Dr. Mahama's forms, the commissioner says that where they were supposed to sign, they ticked instead of signing. Kweku, do you think they should warrant him his form not being accepted?
Signature or mark is
Yes.
tick a mark.
Yes.
How do I determine the authenticity of the tick? Tick is, you mean like a plus sign?
Right.
My goodness. I mean,
But that can be
please.
somebody's
But you see, why would we do this to ourselves as politicians, as political parties, organized, in shape, mark, and then you tick? I saw one person's, and almost 95% tick,
Yes.
tick. And then a commission said, oh, that's fine.
No, some
Accepted.
say the commission should not say that, because this is
What
the
should the
commission.
commission say?
This is the commission
Correct it.
who committed similar sins. That's what they say. That in the election petition, they admitted to administrative and clerical errors.
Yes, I've heard that
and
argument.
the majority of the court was emphatic, led by the presiding,
Yes,
Justice Atuguba.
yes.
That should not be used to punish them.
I've heard that
Why
argument.
does it not also forgive these people of such sins?
Well, I've heard that argument, and I was intrigued because the paradox is that those who are making that argument supported the Supreme Court's ruling. I opposed it. I was displeased with it. I thought it wasn't very
okay, so
sustainable thing.
let's discuss the principle.
Yeah, yes. So my view is that, look, a serious politician of serious political party, you are asked signature or mark, at least even thumbprint. Somebody, head teacher, had marked, not even thumbprint. A head teacher.
Yes.
I mean, I nearly said nonsense. It's redrawn.
After seeing
That's incredible. How can you do a thing like that? So me, that tick.
Some medical officers of the level of some surgeons or so also thumbprinted
Yes.
instead of signing.
I mean, can you believe that?
But that's a choice. The law says you can thumbprint or sign.
That straight away would tell me there's something basically wrong with that. When you bring that to me, I'll see straight something wrong with that. Okay? So, to be honest, it's sad. I'll be honest with you. Dr. Mahama, Dr. Endum, I was disappointed. I was sad, to be honest. But when I checked the details given for why they found themselves in that situation, I said, well, the only thing they can do is to go to court and perhaps cure the mischief.
Okay. George, you insist
so
that
obvious.
these things should not lead to a disqualification or an invalidation of the nomination. What's your basis for saying so? Kweku says he's also heard that and he's been directed, obviously by some lawyers, to go and read Tenade and those cases.
You see, let me tell you something. I mean, the lawyer in me, unfortunately, has
very briefly
dominates me this morning. Something, we do cases, and we know the issues we take with these things. A mark is a mark. Is a mark, right? Why?
Are you sure about that?
I'm saying that. Why are you not saying specific that it should be either a signature or a tamping? If you say a mark,
there's a dictionary definition of the mark.
Yes, I am saying that. You see, I know people whose signature is like this, and it's a signature, properly.
And the person has been using it for years.
Yes, but I'm saying that have we determined? You see, Kweku,
and so there were a dozen people who did all of them sign the same.
No, but there were about 90 or 100.
No, let's be very careful. You see, it is to give everybody. Kweku, is to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. That is why in sitting down and crafting CI 94, we are saying that when you see these things, call them back to go and rectify.
Right.
You see, that's the whole point.
Let the court
to the extent that you didn't call them back, then you have a problem. If you had called them back and they insisted, then I agree with you.
Well, my view. See, I wanted to make a quick point. My brother was giving us. Well, he was insisting that there was nothing like possible forgery or fraud in the Indum case. But the commission, I was talking about what the commission said. Okay, if that's not what they said, I'll give it.
What I'm saying is that the disqualification of Dr. Indum.
So you are contesting it, but the commission says so.
Yeah.
So you are,
the commission says so. It says
yes.
it raises.
But the scenario I asked about, can you imagine that President Mahama has qualified to be president and was so voted for, and then by filling a form, nomination form, he makes these errors, and he's disqualified? Can you imagine that?
Yeah, but that's a hypothesis that I'm not prepared to examine. Why? We are examining that hypothetical situation in order to suggest that, oh, that would not have been done. That's unfair. If it had happened, we have evidence that it happened, and the commission closes eyes on it, then we deal with the commission. But here we are, you are inviting me to examine a hypothetical situation. It's so unfair.
Because that could also inform,
and you know my answer
that could also inform the purpose of the law.
No, wait. If you have a party that is organized, in my view, and very well organized on the ground, 432 subscribers in 216 districts. You can't get them. Usually, they should be members of the party. Trusted, loyal members of your party.
And I'll put that question to you. Question has been asked that how were some of the individuals supposed to know that somebody's name was on an exclusion list? Have the parties been served with the register, certified register?
We don't have the register.
Soft copies.
Have the parties been served?
No, what we have.
No, I spoke to the EC. The EC, one of them. I hosted the deputy chairperson, Opoku Amankwa, and one of the members on the GTV's platforms on Ask the EC on Wednesday, and I asked them, and they said, "You, the parties, you have the register, you have a copy, so you are able to know who."
I think it's the soft copy.
Yes,
it's what I can confirm we have is the soft copy of the polling stations.
Registers.
No. Polling the districts. What they supplied us is the districts.
it contains voters.
Yes. No, it's not. It's not voters register. It's different. It's the 29,000 polling stations and which districts they are and which constituencies. So it's a list of constituencies, or first of all, a list of regions, and in the region you have a list of the district, and in the district you have the list of the constituencies and the polling station names and the code.
Okay.
But that is CR 95.
The law requires that.
CR 95.
The law requires that you should be served with a certified copy of the register.
Well, I
don't have one.
We don't have.
Okay.
CI 95.
Okay.
And he has all the polling stations.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
So this is the soft copy they gave us.
Yeah, so you have it.
No. You see, register is different from list of polling stations.
Thank you. Guys, let's not speak across purpose. Yes. Now the question about the multiplicity of suits that are coming up. It does appear that all the 12, and maybe subsequently Odike, if he doesn't survive, may also join 13. It does appear that all of them are headed for the court, except Ikuadonko, who's already, thank God, she says this is God's doing, and she's supporting John Mahama going forward.
Can you imagine this joke?
The fear is that the litigations may drag, And of course, one of the lawyers has already said that he's going to put an injunction on the elections. Yes.
Well, I hope that the courts will not allow that to happen. Even if they have to sit till midnight and dispose of these cases quickly, they have to do so, because election is a big matter for those countries.
Sit midnight?
Oh, just to put it hypothetically.
Weekends, maybe.
Whatever. I mean, they should do whatever it takes. Whatever it takes to dispose of these cases quickly so that we can proceed with the election. But the issue you raised earlier on about the hypothetical point of if it had been said a certain precedent, I think it is important in resolving these matters we avert our minds to that possibility. Because if these disqualifications
then
stand,
add the MPP as well.
well, of course, that's what I mean. The big parties.
Yeah, because this is the precedent going forward.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if we should resolve these matters bearing that possibility in mind. We cannot do this today because it's so easy to do that, and people think these are candidates who would not win anyway. So the way society is responding to it is different from it would be if it happened, but this is a precedent, and therefore I hope that in resolving these matters we avert our mind to that. But the last point I want to make is that, as is evident from Regulation 8,
yeah, I was going to read that.
exactly,
so
Regulation 8, the EC chairperson is the returning officer, and it's clear from Regulation 8 that she had to receive the same way at the parliamentary level, and I know that because I went to the EC at the district office and I was told that the returning officer would do it. And so, in fact, we're given just the Thursday and the Friday. That is the time you could have filed your nomination, within which you could have filed your nomination. The question is that if, as PPP is claiming, they filed their nomination 9 a.m. the following day, then you ask, that's about 50%. If the EC considered that the 2 days was sufficient for the purpose, I'm sure the issue will come up in court whether it was fair. It was fair. It was also fair to say that these guys and until now, many people just thought that they waited to last minute and submitted. But now that we all know that it was 2 days, I'm sure we need to put all these together and have a determination that will stand the test of other possibilities.
Do you think the courts are up to this task, that all of these things are coming up now? And we obviously ought to pay attention to the fact also that the law itself, the CI itself, says that if these things happen to you, the option of the court is open to you. So you can by election petition go to the court and whatever you get, the EC will comply. Do you think the courts are up to this?
Unfortunately, the AG was in court this week trying to lay new court amendment to new court rule to make way for some of these things. Unfortunately, because of the time lapse, we may not be able to. As to whether we will be able to have it done or not is another matter. That would have helped that a lot. But I mean, between you and I as lawyers, you know that I think that this is a time where people shouldn't sit on the fence. If you think that you're affected, join quickly. There should be parties should be
they're
going
filing
for
separate suits.
The
PPP is going by way of judicial review.
Yes, that appears problematic.
Nana Konedu is also going in a different way.
That is where
I've seen some portions of what Nana Konedu has.
That also is good because
and
it means that more than one court can handle a case at the same time. Because if you are going by the way Aikoyoto and PPP is going, you can go before another judge. Then when somebody is going by way of petition, you can go.
Consolidate?
That is what I'm saying. They find that some are similar, they will consolidate
and then go on. But the parties themselves will do themselves a lot of good. If you have similarities in a case with somebody, go and hide behind that person.
Right.
Unite and fight the common case so that the ruling can be.
As far as you are concerned, December 7 is not in jeopardy.
I don't. At this stage, I will not say
at all.
Not at all.
It's casting still.
Great. And very recently, the Kwesimintim matter in the MPP. There were two different cases: Joe Bedo Ansah and Joseph Mensah. I must disclose, I represented Joseph Mensah, and both were consolidated. One was in Sekondi, was brought to Accra, put together, and then a judge was asked to come from the vacation and sit on it and sit daily.
Yeah.
2 weeks. 2 weeks, the case was done. 2 weeks, the case was
So
done.
I think that the judges can be, they can be
So
sitting.
I mean, I know.
Right.
We will supply them with calipo if they need it. Come on.
We'll supply them with calico.
That's a good
very, very interesting. Very, very interesting there. Okay. Yes.
I think I need to clarify.
That would be a very final point.
Yeah,
because
final
you are
point. I
moving
need to
on.
clarify that. You see, the EC might have mentioned fraud in the press conference. They wrote to us an official letter post the press conference, and they stated the reason for our disqualification.
What did
it was
they
not
say?
occasioned by fraud. They
What
said
did they say?
the nomination form are not properly signed by all the subscribers, and they listed a number of grounds. This fraud is not there. So even though they mentioned it, it is not the one that occasioned the disqualification. So there was nothing fraudulent on our part. And even if there was, it cannot constitute.
No,
So
I
your
said
letter is
the
different
party-
from
no,
the
no,
release.
no.
That's what Kweku is depending
Yes.
on. On the release page 12.
Even read the release well.
Yes, release page
You
12.
see that there are two different statements.
Sorry, release page 12, which is about Dr. Indum. It says the same subscriber, Richard Asida, endorsed the form with different signatures in both portions of the nomination form. This raises questions as to the legitimacy of one or both signatures.
Yes.
We will refer the matter of the possible forgery of signatures to the Ghana Police and the Attorney General for investigation. So this is what Kweku was depending on.
Yes, but the letter is not there.
We have admitted that. You say so. So we have admitted that. Okay, so we should be looking forward to the Attorney General and the police going to court. Those who are being cited for perjury, they are going to go in if they are found guilty. Perjury is second-degree felony, depending on how it is done. Those who are being said that they are making false declarations about elections, that's a misdemeanor. They may get just some few time in jail or pay some fines, and it will work. Those who are said to be deceiving public officer, that is also a misdemeanor. Those who are said to be involved in corruption and intimidation and impersonation in respect of elections, that is also a misdemeanor. And when they are found guilty and convicted, they are barred from 7 years from the date of the conviction. They will be incapable of voting at any public elections or holding any public office. So some of these things are quite serious. This show is brought to you by Bank of Africa, strong as a group, close as a partner, MTN. Welcome to the new world. Star Assurance, creating smiles since 1985. ACAP Compost Fertilizer, that's truly natural. White Temple Agency, that's a luxury you can afford. What sort of tiles are you looking for? That's where to go. Ines Fly for a pest-free life, and Royal Lighting, walk in the light. Now, the time to save and win is back again with the season of giving promo at the Bank of Africa. And you know, it's quite simple to participate. Just enter by depositing or opening an account with 150 Ghana cedis, build up funds and get rewarded at the end of every month till the end of the promo. No raffles, no draws. Yes, no draws, which means everyone wins. Fantastic prizes, fridges, smartphones, laptops, etc. are up for grabs. The promo runs till the 31st of January 2017. Remember, the more you save, the more you win. Terms and conditions apply. Bank of Africa, strong as a group and close as a partner. What sort of internet are you on? The best internet that you need to experience is the MTN 4G LTE. Log on to that or hop onto it and you will enjoy a whopping 100% bonus when you bundle. It gives you speed in real time in whatever you want to do. Get started, simply dial *585# to check if your device is 4G compatible, and then visit any MTN service center near you with a valid ID and make your switch today. Enjoy a better internet experience on Ghana's only 4G network on the go and say yellow to the future. MTN, welcome to the new world. And Star Assurance, they bring you the 3 quick steps, very easy, to your insurance. You can insure online, as in buy, renew, and make your claims all in 3 easy steps, simply by logging onto starassurance.com and follow the easy steps to get your insurance online. It's that easy. Star e-insurance, possible anywhere, anytime. Star Assurance, that is your solid partner. And ACAP compost fertilizer. If you're a farmer, you are looking to stop poor seasonal yields over the period or post-harvest losses due to short shelf life of your produce, ACAP compost fertilizer is what you need. It's organic fertilizer made from pure organic materials. And you can get ACAP compost fertilizer in all leading agro inputs dealers and distributors across the country. You can call 026 40 781. White Temple Agencies Limited, they offer you the latest technologically advanced, trendy and durable yet affordable stone-coated roofing tiles. Fair Roof, that's a luxury you can afford. All they require from you is your roof plan. Your taste in roofing is their ultimate priority. You can locate White Temple Agencies on plot number 65 Derby Avenue on the Children's Hospital Road adjacent NHIS Building Arena, or their sales office branch at the Wager Barrier, Accra West. You can call 0302 67 37 73 or 024 32 84 85 9. Royal Lighting Investment Limited, they bring you the very finest lighting that you need in your homes, because your home is your palace and you need to let it look royal. They have in stock indoor and outdoor lights such as wall lights, ceiling lights, exquisite and antique chandeliers, brick wall lights, among others. Visit their showroom at Bachona off Spintex Road, previously Nick and Silago building near Bachona Total. You can call them on 0302 81 63 10 or 0302 81 63 11, and they will attend to you. That's these are the companies that are paying for this program. Thank you very much.